the House of Representatives is standing firm. Their fight is not over. Let's get on point with the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Attorney Princess Abante. Attorney, good to see you again.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for your
Thank you for
time.
inviting me.
All right, so interesting times, of course, for
Pakinggan natin si Atty.
the
Princess.
Congress. But of course, the decision of the Supreme Court recently declaring the articles of impeachment ab initio, sabi nga nila, null and void because it violated the one-year bar rule. Our understanding, of course, the House has said that they will file a motion for reconsideration.
Yes.
Has this been filed?
Not yet. From what I was informed, the House has until August 10, the 15th day, to file the motion for consideration. But I understand it falls on a Sunday, so the deadline will be moved to August 11. When the Counsel of the House, through the Office of the Solicitor General, will file it, whether on the day of the deadline or before that, I have no information yet.
Help us again understand that in terms of, you mentioned the Solicitor General. How does that work?
The Solicitor General is the general counsel for all government institutions. So by operation of law, they represent the House of Representatives in cases where the House is named as a respondent.
All right. And has there been a meeting of minds between the government counsel and the House prosecutors?
Like we mentioned in our previous statements, we believe that there were erroneous facts that were relied on by the Supreme Court in their decision. The one-year ban rule was applied in the actions of the House that we followed based on the Constitution, the rules of the House, and previous rulings of the Supreme Court. And we intend to file the motion for reconsideration to clarify these erroneous facts that they relied on. Our position is that they did not take into consideration the official documents that were submitted to the Supreme Court. And in this clarification to the motion for reconsideration, we're hopeful. While we respect the Supreme Court and their decision, we will use the legal avenues that are provided for the House of Representatives to continue to assert its power given to it by the Constitution in initiating the impeachment.
Under Article 11, Article 11 rather, of the 1987 Constitution. All right, I want to go back to the Solgen. I was asking, has there been a meeting between the Solgen and the House prosecutors? Or slash the private prosecutors, yes.
Regarding the motion for reconsideration, I understand that the House and the Office of the Solicitor General already discussed what needs to be raised in the motion for consideration. It was actually, I believe, the OSG that informed us that they intend to file a motion for consideration because of these observations that they found in the erroneous facts that were relied on by the Supreme Court, and that the House agreed that to protect the institution by fighting for its power to initiate the impeachment proceedings, that a motion for reconsideration is needed to be filed.
So, to be clear, Attorney, sinong nangunguna dito ngayon? Would it be a combination of the House and the Solgen, or is it the Solgen spearheading this MR?
As its counsel, the Solicitor General's office will be the one that will be preparing the motion for reconsideration.
Okay. Tapos siguro with insights, of course, from the House Prosecution Panel.
Definitely, the House Prosecution Panel kasi sila yung authorized by the House for the impeachment trial. But for the case before the Supreme Court, it's the OSG that will be representing the House.
All right. When you said erroneous, would you be able to share with us ano yung nakita ng Solicitor General na erroneous parts of the decision of the Supreme Court regarding this impeachment case?
Without preempting the arguments that will be set forth by the OSG, I will just again state what I've mentioned earlier in my statements when we announced that the House will be filing a motion for consideration. No? Number one, the Supreme Court mentioned that walang plenary vote doon sa pag-transmit ng fourth complaint to the Senate, when in fact it was already in the records of the House that it was voted by the plenary, the House itself, the whole body of the House, when it was validated that the fourth complaint was signed and verified by at least 1/3 members of the House.
Yun yung vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then yung inaction na sinasabi on the first 3 complaints, that no action was done on the 3 complaints before it adjourned, when actually there was. It was done after the fourth complaint was validated, that it's been verified and signed by at least 1/3. It was archived by the plenary
Okay,
as well.
so balikan lang natin. So a little bit more digestible. Ang sinasabi niyo po, Attorney, dahil nagkaroon po ng fourth impeachment complaint, which gathered more than one-third signatures, ito pong resolution, nakakuha po ng more than one-third signatures under the law in the 1987 Constitution, Article 11, that should form the articles of impeachment and will be transmitted to the Senate.
Yes.
Ang sinasabi niyo po ba sa akin na nung na-transmit po yan ng Feb 5, that first three complaints that were calendared by the House that ended on February 5, the day the resolution was signed by one-third, dinismiss po yung tatlo, tama ho
It
ba?
was not dismissed, it was archived.
It was archived because you had the fourth impeachment
Yes,
complaint.
it was moved
Okay.
already.
I see. So there's no such thing as na-dismiss, na-archive kasi may nag-supersede.
Yes.
Tama ho ba yun?
Yes.
All right. Kung ganun ho kasi yung siguro thinking of the House, no? And the House is defending this as such. The Supreme Court obviously saw this in a different light. They saw that the first three, the December 2 impeachment complaint that was filed, the December 4 impeachment complaint that was filed, the December 19 impeachment complaint that was filed, was included in the order of business within 10 session days that actually ended supposed to be on Feb 5. It was archived and then it was dismissed. Yun po yung kanilang sinabi doon sa kanilang Supreme Court decision. How do you actually prove or encourage them to think otherwise? Kasi nagsabit na ho kayo ng mga dokumento, hindi ho ba, when they asked for it?
In the body of their decision, they relied more on news articles rather than they did not mention, in fact, the documents that we submitted, which are records of the House of Representatives. That's why, again, we would want to file a motion for reconsideration to clarify these facts, and perhaps that they would see that in the House's actions in the initiation of the impeachment proceedings, that it did follow the provisions of the Constitution, including the previous rulings of the Supreme Court.
When you talk about the previous ruling, are you talking about the Francisco
Yes.
ruling, no? Balikan lang po natin, attorney, for those who might are not very enlightened with this Francisco ruling. This is the ruling to which the Supreme Court had said, basically, the one-year bar starts upon initiation. At ang sabi po dito sa Francisco ruling, maybe you should be the one to tell us more.
The one-year ban starts at the initiation at the Committee on Justice, not the filing of a complaint. And in this case, only one complaint was initiated by the House of Representatives, and that is the fourth complaint.
That was filed last February 5.
Yes.
All right. Doon ho kaya sa motion for reconsideration, was there a consideration that maybe the House might want to ask for oral arguments? I ask that because the former Chief Justice, Atty. Panganiban, had mentioned that if he were still, sabi nga niya, with the Supreme Court, there were issues he would have done a different process. And one of that, he said that there should have at least been an oral argument here. Kung sabi nga daw niya, kung yung paglipat ng pondo ng PhilHealth to the National Treasury ay binigyan ng oral arguments ng Korte Suprema, dapat din daw ito. And then, also recently, former Associate Justice Adolf Ascuna also said oral arguments should be considered.
Well, it will be up to the Council of the House of Representatives on what they will pray for in the motion for reconsideration. I have no information aside from what the initial observations were by the House's counsel, but we have read the other commentaries on the decision of the Supreme Court, and we are hoping that with the filing of the MR, we would have a better position so for the House to continue with the impeachment proceedings.
Siguro,
Nangihintayin
just
natin
for clarity also, I don't know,
yung
I was
kanilang
looking
motion
at the
of
screen if we were able to show that particular
motion for reconciliation.
article in the 1987 Constitution, yung pong sinasabing one-third vote, that if the House actually is able to gather one-third vote, here it is, a vote of at least one-third of all members of the House shall be necessary either to affirm a favorable resolution with the articles of impeachment of the committee or override its contrary resolution. The vote of each member shall be recorded. And then it also says that in case the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed, ito yung second mode, di ba,
Yes.
attorney? This is the second mode that happened February 5. It's filed by at least one-third of all the members of the House. The same shall constitute the articles of impeachment, and trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. Here's the issue. Attorney, ang sabi po ng Korte Suprema, hindi ho ba ab initio, null and void? Dahil mali daw at nag-violate na sa one-year bar rule na wala ng jurisdiction yung Senado. What do you say to that?
Well, again, our position is that the House did its job, its role in the initiation of the impeachment proceeding according to the Constitution, according to the rules of the House, according to the previous rulings of the Supreme Court, their decision is not yet final, with all due respect. And but again, it's really up to the Senate on how they will act on the impeachment complaint transmitted to them. So we respect the different institutions of government. We can only speak for what we have performed and what are our duties.
Do you personally think that asking for an oral argument would be the right way to go?
At this point, well, I try not to speak on my personal opinion because I'm a spokesperson of the House. So my personal opinion doesn't really have space
Okay.
for public.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let me revise that question. Were there appeals or considerations from the House members to the Solgen to ask for oral arguments?
I have no information on that.
Wala
Opo,
ka pang naririnig.
wala pa akong information tungkol doon. I know that there are different views of various members of the House on how the Supreme Court decided on the case. Many have been vocal. Many are quiet about their opinion. But yun sa mga specifics na mga gustong maisama sa motion for reconsideration in the discussion with the Council of the House, wala pa po akong information.
Pero would you say they've met once, twice, or 3 times? And sinong nangunguna as siguro in the House contingent?
Well, hindi din po sa akin yan na bigay ang information. Ang information lang na meron ako is that Solicitor General already informed the House through the Speaker of their recommendations on how to move forward
Okay.
after the decision
So
of the
alam na po
Supreme
ni
Court.
Speaker, and I guess we can assume that he's told at least maybe the House prosecution panel. Maybe.
Mm-mm.
That's a possibility. And then of course, yung sinabi niyo po sa Senado, there's already a decision by members of the Senate to decide and vote on this on August 6th. That's next week. We're going to continue our discussion with House spokesperson Attorney Princess Abante. We'll be taking a very short break. This is On Point. Stay tuned. Of the Supreme Court, they set out conditions or requirements, again, set by the Supreme Court. 1 and 2 basically talked about the articles of impeachment or resolution must include evidence when shared with House members, especially those who are considering its endorsement, and that the evidence should be sufficient to prove the charges in the articles of impeachment. Pasok po yan dun sa, this is a question. Did this form part of the more than one third that signed the resolution that constituted the articles of
We
impeachment?
assume that all members of the House of Representatives that signed and verified the complaint read the articles of impeachment, the complaint, and went through the evidence accompanied it.
Number 4 was that one of the conditions also is that this is a little tricky because there are some people who are actually saying, is this part of the Constitution? The respondent in the impeachment complaint should have been given a chance to be heard
Yes.
on the articles of impeachment and the supporting evidence to prove the charges prior to its transmittal to the Senate, despite the number of endorsements from House members.
Yan din po yung sinasabi namin na kaya we need to file a motion for reconsideration because this requirement was not included in the Constitution, in the rules, or even in the previous rulings of the Supreme Court. We cannot be judged on something that wasn't required by the House at the time that it acted on the impeachment complaint.
When you gave your statement regarding the decision of the Supreme Court, you actually said there is what is called the doctrine of operative facts.
Yes.
Can you explain that to us?
Sa
please?
doctrine of operative facts, pag ang isang batas ay nagre-require, walang nire-require dun sa action that was made at the time it was done, legal yung action na yon. And that is our position. When we acted on the impeachment complaint, that requirement of due process was not part of the constitutional requirement. It was not part of the rules of the House on the initiation of impeachment complaints and the impeachment proceedings, nor was it a requirement under any of the previous Supreme Court rulings. So for the actions of the House to be declared unconstitutional based on something that was not a requirement by law at that time that the House acted on it, we need to assert that we did it constitutionally.
I think there was also, if I'm not mistaken, it was Associate Justice Ascuna who said that, from my understanding, is that if these conditions or with regards to the Supreme Court decision, kung may mga ganito, dapat ata, ang sinasabi niya, I'm simplifying it, kung ganito ang hihingin ng Korte Suprema, dapat daw ay prospective ang pag-apply nito, hindi dito sa particular present impeachment complaint. Tama po ba yung pagkaintindi ko? I'm not
Dapat
sure if you-
lang,
I think
ganun
yun
dapat.
yung yung sinasabi nga po ni Justice Oscuna, but on the part of the House, that is not a requirement by the Constitution, and it appears that the Supreme Court decision effectively is amending the requirements under the Constitution. So, as part of the assertion of the House in the decision to file a motion for reconsideration, the House is also protecting the exclusive power given to it by the Constitution in initiating the impeachment proceedings.
So Speaker Martin Romualdez also urged fellow lawmakers to draw the line, saying, ito po yung basically sinasabi niyo, Attorney, that the power to initiate is domain to this chamber that came from him. And I guess the question is, how does the House plan to enforce this? That the power to initiate is domain to this chamber.
Well, first step is the filing of the motion for reconsideration, where it is our avenue to assert what is legally given to the House by the Constitution itself.
There's also a story that Senator Risa Ontiveros was saying that there will be a resolution. I don't think it's from her, that somebody plans to file a resolution regarding this on the sense of the Senate, regarding the impeachment complaint or / trial. Any knowledge of this? Has there been any contact, connection, coordination with the House?
As far as I know, wala po akong information on that.
Okay, again, and as we mentioned a while ago, yung caucus po kanina na pagkasunduan nila na August 6, ang kanilang decision, whether to vote, to dismiss, to carry on. What is this a concern for the House members? Because nung una sabi July 29 sana, tapos na urong ng urong, and then now it's August 6.
From the start naman po, ang House of Representatives, nung transmit pa lang namin ng House ang articles of impeachment sa Senado, lagi naman namin sinasabi na nasa Senado na po ang bola. It is up to them on how and when they will act on the articles of impeachment.
Ang problema ko, nasa Senado na ang bola, pero ang sinabi ng Korte Suprema, wala sa kanila yung bola. Because if they say, hindi ho ba, as a lawyer, ab initio, null and void, ibig sabihin.
Well, our position is that the Supreme Court decision is not yet final. Kaya nga may opportunity pa kami to file our motion for reconsideration. So, for the House, seeing that it's not yet final, we can still proceed with the trial. But again, it's really up to the Senate on how they will act on the articles of impeachment.
Talking about the Senate, just shifting topics here, meron po kasing this supposed controversy, this alleged budget insertion surrounding Senate President Chis Escudero. Basically, he was saying that this is a demolition job by someone, hindi ko alam kung someone or some people in the House. Ano ho ba ang sagot ng House dito?
I do not know why when there's a criticism against the Senate President, he would look at the House as the source. No, like maybe there's a need to answer the questions. But as far as the House is concerned, we are focused on our job. The House's job is to advocate for and pass laws and not start any black propaganda against anyone.
So you totally deny that there's somebody in the House that is behind this alleged demolition job against
I have no
the
information
Senate
on that.
President? Wala. Hindi po napag-uusapan yan. Ito ho bang relationship between the leaders of both houses of Congress? How would you describe it?
Kasama naman po sa demokrasya that we're not always in agreement with everything. No? But what is clear is that the House and the Senate needs to work together. We may not share positions on several issues. We may have various opinions on various issues in the country and how we should proceed with the solutions. But it is incumbent upon both houses to work together to find these solutions for the betterment of our country.
Priorities of the House in
Yes.
the next weeks or months? Attorney?
The speaker made a speech earlier defining the House priorities. So kanina binanggit niya na the House will prioritize food security, jobs and livelihood, healthcare, education, peace and order, national security, and number 6, yung budget reforms, in making sure that the budget process will be transparent and that we would make sure that the budget will be for the people. Yung mga programa at mga polisiya na nabanggit din ng ating presidente na sa SONA ay masisigurong matutulungan. He even mentioned that to ensure that the budget process in the House will be transparent. He earlier already mentioned that he is supporting the
Calls, no?
calls for open BICAM.
Yeah.
Isa siya sa mga unang nagsabi na susuportahan niya to, and he is putting meat in his words, because kanina nabanggit niya din sa speech na hindi lang yung sa pag-open ng budget proceedings from committee to plenary, but opening the BICAM also para masiguro na nakikita ng publiko kung saan napupunta ang pera ng bayan.
Quick question about that because nagsalita po si Congressman Toby Tiangco hinggil din dyan. Yung small groups ho ba, kailangan natanggalin siya siguro for premise. He was saying that normally kapag nagsasagawa ng batas, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that meron kang first hearing and then committee amendments, personal amendments, and then it goes to the second, tawag po doon? I'm missing the word.
Small committee?
The second hearing.
Okay.
And then after that, sabi niya, ang nangyayari sa budget, nagkakaroon ng small committee pagkatapos pa nung second stage. He was saying na dapat wala na tong small committee dahil hindi natin alam kung anong nangyayari sa small committee, number one. And number two, wala daw minutes yon. My question is the Speaker willing to forego ito po mga small committee meetings?
As I think I was asked earlier about that also, no? Sabi ko nga si Congressman Tiangco has been a congressman for quite a number of terms. He can very well propose that also before the plenary to institutionalize yung sinasabi niya na pagtanggal ng small committee. The Speaker has already declared that he will make sure that the budget processes will be transparent, and it appears that Congressman Tiangco is supporting the Speaker on this. So we will see on how the budget proceedings will continue. I understand there would be some resolutions that will be filed on it, on ano yung mismo mga mechanisms tungkol dito.
Pero with the Speaker, he made no mention of these small committee hearings na tatanggalin na niya.
Hindi niya nabanggit specifically yan sa speech na kanina, but si Speaker po ay sumusuporta naman kung ano yung nagiging desisyon ng body through the plenary. Kaya nga sinasabi namin na any member of the House can make that motion before the plenary so that we will have a clear guideline on how the House would want to act on the budget process in the House of Representatives.
I think I still have maybe a minute or so. Quick question, a follow-up also. It was Congressman Toby Tiangco who said that kailangan din daw wala ng post-budget amendment. I forget the word, what it's really called. Basically, he's saying kasi naipasa na, for example, yung mga budget for social services such as TUPAD, MAIC, AIC, etc. And then sabi niya, at some point, kailangan pa daw pumunta sa portal ng Congress. And then basically, parang ang pagkaintindi ko, naka-budget na to, sabihin po natin TUPAD, pero para daw makakuha ng pera doon sa budget na yun, kailangan pumasok sa portal ng House of Representatives and then get it from the budget or the money na kay Speaker daw po.
Yung budget ng mga pondo ng
MAIC, AIC, etc.
That is wrong. Dahil ang mga pondo ng ahensya ay nasa ahensya.
That's
ang
what he was saying, dapat daw nandun daw.
Nandun pa rin, wala naman pong nabago dun eh. At ang implementation ng mga programa ng mga ahensya katulad ng AKAP sa DSWD, MAIP sa DOH, I think TUPAD with DOLE, ay nasa ahensya pa rin yan. If anything, the House leaders assist other House members in endorsing their requests to the agencies, but that is subject to the approval of the agency.
But why would the House leaders have to assist House members there?
Well, madami po kasi ang mga House members. Hindi po lahat yan ay madaling makalapit minsan or alam kung paano yung pag-request ng mga assistance. Nangyayari po yan sa iba't ibang mga districts. So, but still, it's always up to the agency on ano yung mga priorities nila, priority areas, priority programs, and how they will implement.
I guess the question really here, Attorney, is that this budget for social services should not be politicized. As a last question, does the Speaker have the power to choose who among congressmen ang magkakaroon po ng budget for these social services?
Social services implemented by the departments are done by the departments. It's not up to the Speaker. It's up to the departments on how they will implement their program.
Attorney Princess Abante, thank you so much for your time, and we'll await siguro the
Yun,
MR
salamat.
from the Solgen, and of course, at least what happens next dito po sa Senado naman, kung anong gagawin nila with the articles of impeachment, or rather, the impeachment complaint. Again, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you
time.
very much.
That's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb.
Alright, so narinig natin yung side mga kabsat ng House, kung anong dapat nilang gawin at yung mga dapat nilang i-take note, especially yung ruling ng Supreme Court. So, ayan kabsat. So, okay na tayo. Napakinggan naman natin si Attorney Princess Abante, kabsat, no? For the meantime, guys, meron na naman tayong premiere. Palilipatin ko kayo mga kabsat. Wait lang. Ito yung kay Loren Legarda. Sumabog, no? Sumabog si Loren Legarda na hindi niya papayagan na matuloy ang 2026 budget hanggat hindi naiimbestigahan yung ginawang insertion ni Cheese mga kabsat. Agoy. So ito, kahit like lang mga kabsat, maraming salamat po So, okay na po tayo, Ma'am Sat. Maraming salamat po. So, pwede na tayong lumipat dito. Lagay ko yung link sa baba. Ayan. Lipat po sa link, Ma'am Sat. Lipat po tayo sa link. Ayan. Yun. Ayan, Ma'am Sat. So, thank you very much, Ma'am Sat. Hanggang sa muli. Lunch break muna tayo, okay? Lunch break. Lipat po sa link, Ma'am Sat. Doon tayo mag-usap. Thank you very much. Happy lunch po. More blessings. God bless. Kita-kits.